I'm Alex Savage from KTVU Fox 2 News in the San Francisco Bay Area. During this lockdown, during the coronavirus pandemic, a lot of kids are missing out on some really key milestones, some important events, graduations, proms, some sporting events at school. And it's a really tough time to navigate those challenges and the disappointment that comes with that. Joining us now to talk more about this issue is Dr. Hansa Bhargava, a pediatrician and the senior medical director at WebMD. Dr. Bhargava, it's really good to have you on here. How tough a time is this, you think, for kids, especially the older kids, the high school set, who are maybe closer to graduation, missing out on events like graduation, like prom?
Well, Alex, thanks for having me on.
Sure.
It is a really tough time. So, especially for those seniors, the 12th graders, I think graduation is a huge passing, passing into adulthood or however going to college. And there's a lot of events that are around that, proms and, last nights out or bonfires. And then, of course, the big graduation ceremony themselves. So it is very impactful. And there's a whole lead up to those events as well. So I think that we need to acknowledge that kids are going through this. It may not seem like a big deal when you're a parent, but in fact, if you roll back the years to when you were a senior, you realize what a big deal it is at that time. So we do need to acknowledge that.
What are the best strategies that parents can use to help our kids cope? I mean, you talk about, first of all, not dismissing those really strong emotions that your kids are likely to have because of the disappointment in missing out on these events.
Yeah. So I think that it's an event that they're missing, and they have to almost come to terms with the loss of it. And just like anything else, like the stages of grief, where first you're denying it, then you're angry, and then all of a sudden, you go through the negotiating. Well, maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe it will happen. How can I make it happen? And the realization that you need to accept it. So the parents should kind of know that there's stages of grief, and it's not going to happen in one conversation. The kids actually need to process it and go through those stages of grief, but to be there from a supportive manner. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's an opportunity that parents can take here as well, Alex.
Yeah, and I know, and you talked about this in a piece that you wrote recently, that there is potentially a silver lining in some of these kids, not being able to take part in these really important life events because it potentially can help them to be more resilient and more flexible and able to sort of roll with the punches later in life.
Yeah, and that is exactly the point. I think it's really important for parents to realize that opportunities like this helps build character. I know that sounds so cliche, but it really is the toolbox, because we know as adults that nothing stays the same, right? There's always things that you have to adapt to. It doesn't really matter what your life circumstances are. And one of the things that, one issue I talk a lot about in pediatrics is the fact that lately, before COVID happened, for a lot of families, it's pretty hunky-dory. Like the kids get, almost everything. Go to school, the parents drive them around, do the activities. They're pretty much like chauffeured around, given food, all of that. And we talk about helicopter parenting, right? About that actually not helping them become the strongest people they can be. And yet here, right now, I'm not saying COVID's a good thing. I'm not saying that at all.
No.
But, there's a silver lining where we could potentially take that part and help them say, hey, bad stuff happens in life. How do we deal with this? And it's okay.
Right. And also telling kids they're not alone as well. Well, how important do you think it is for parents like us to share with our kids who may be struggling with disappointment, some of the disappointments that we've dealt with in our lives? I'm thinking about the moment I can still remember vividly in my mind, being cut from the freshman basketball team when it was all I wanted in life. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel that pain still to this day, and that disappointment. Does that help your kids to overcome?
Alex, I think it's really great to share the story. Storytelling is the best way to get to your kids. They don't want to hear you preach, right? Right. They want to hear your experiences. And you can also point to celebrities. Like, I heard about Tom Brady's story about how, it was real hard for him to become a football player, and these stories resonate with children. There's an Olympic athlete who was playing lacrosse and she couldn't anymore. And then she kind of had to deal with that. And and went on to become an Olympic rower. So the parent stories, these other like high profile celebrities, those stories are great to share, because that is what, and I mean, we all remember things by stories.
So it's obviously important for kids to give them the space to
Yeah.
navigate these emotions. How, though, as a parent, do I know if my child might be having just such a tough time that I need some outside help. I need some professional help to help them get through this. What are some of the signs I should be looking for?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question, because not only is it the disappointments of graduations, but it's actually a lot of stress on kids as well right now,
Sure.
as parents as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. No, I think some of the signs are, it could be one sign that parents may not know about is that physical signs such as stomach aches and headaches can actually be a sign of depression or stress. And also not eating well or not sleeping well or overeating. So these are some of the soft signs. But at the end of the day, like, you should talk to your kids. But if you are worried, don't be afraid to reach out for help. I know that people feel that doctors' offices are closed, but telemedicine is a big thing. And there's also other Talkspace. There's other apps out there that can actually help with mental health issues too. So I think that's really important. Alex, I just wanted to add, like, the story about the graduation. It's also important to find a solution with your kids as well.
Yeah.
It'll help them.
What does that look like?
I'm sorry.
I think in your piece, let's talk about that, because these events, these significant life events, are obviously not going to play out the way that your kids envisioned they would play out, and frankly, how parents envisioned they would all play out. A big graduation ceremony, everybody there, family and friends gathering, but. I think that you say it's important to kind of come up with some ideas, some ways to reimagine these events. What did you have in mind?
And you can, I allude to my friend's story, and what they're going to be doing is doing a little graduation get together in July or June, where they can invite her friends and they can all wear their prom dresses. And so they have a chance to do that. And, at that point, like, those are the solutions you work together with your child, but also to point out, hey, you've got all the elements of it there, right? You've got your friends, you've got the people you love, you've got your dresses. So, I think kind of reframing it for your kids is really important too. And that's how we can guide them and have them understand that, hey, bad stuff happens, but maybe something good can come out of it anyways.
How important do you think it is to be able to obviously, to deal with the emotions around missing out on these events, but also to have your kids step back and look at the big picture and focus on not what you're missing out on, but everything that you do have in front of you. You have your family, you have your friends. Hopefully you have your help at a time like this.
Yeah. Especially now. And I had that conversation with my own kids one day, because as eighth graders do, sometimes they were complaining about things like not having enough junk food in the house. And we sat down, we had a conversation, we talked about, hey, we have our health, you have shelter, you have food. And the other really important element, I think that's really important for our kids, is for them to have compassion. So also talking about all the families, like 1/4 of the families might be food insecure. We know that, right? Those families that deal with school meals and they're not getting their school meals. So kind of pointing that out, but also enabling them to take action, because when they're invested in something, then they actually understand it. So saying, hey, why don't we figure out a way to help those families? What can we do together? And by giving to others, you actually gain yourself in compassion, and that actually helps your self-esteem and your emotional well-being.
I think that's a really great point to helping your kids to understand the bigger picture here of what's going on. Is that though at the same time kind of a careful balancing act, because obviously we know the seriousness of this outbreak. We know there are people dying every day all across the country and around the world for that matter. It seems like you have to strike a careful balance with your kids. I mean, you don't want them to be overly concerned with what's going on around the world, but you want them to have that understanding about how serious this is and how it's impacting their lives. How do you strike that balance, you think, with someone who's let's say a teenager?
Completely agree. So I think the key is it's not going to be one conversation, it's going to be many conversations, and it's going to be regular conversations. And with teenagers, the big thing is that sometimes they don't want to talk when you want to talk. You have to wait for them to talk. So if
Yeah.
they come out and hang out with you and they are starting the conversation, be there. You kind of have to drop everything and just be there when they want to talk, because you have to do it on their time. But yeah, talk a lot. Talk about the news that's out there. I actually really push for media fasts for adults and for kids, because 24/7 news can actually drive up anxiety. So I think it's really important. And also it's a great opportunity to discuss, fake news versus real news versus fact and science. And, that's a nice time to kind of touch upon how we need to make sure things are science-based or fact-based. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, but yeah, I agree with you. I think we have to be really cognizant that they are under stress, that we're under stress, and we just have to keep those communication lines open.
It strikes me that there's another silver lining that we could all sort of look to at a time like this, in terms of families and kids. We're all spending so much more time together, and it does seem like we're spending. I know times are stressful. I'm thinking about sort of my own life right now. A lot of the time is very stressful, trying to get kids to, to do schoolwork from home and get on Zoom classes, and all this stuff is very stressful. But at the same time, we're not in as much of a rushing from school to work and going in and picking up kids and trying to get dinner and doing all this. So we're sort of slowing down in some sense and spending more quality time together with our family members, you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is so nice. And that is a silver lining. It's almost a time, Alex, that we could actually reset our priorities, right? Because we're kind of being forced to, but now we can actually take it and run with it in our new life, which won't be similar to, there'll be some changes because of COVID, but we can actually understand how important that family time is. And playing board games or taking walks outside, because I see so many families walking outside, and if it is safe to do so, take that opportunity. I mean, it's a lot of opportunities. Those silver linings are important. We need to appreciate that, because not only does that help the kids, but it actually helps ourselves too, right? Like, you're a dad too. I mean, it's nice to hang out with your kids and have the time to do it.
Yeah, no, I've had some really great moments with them, honestly, over the past. I mean, some moments that I'm not sure would have happened if it's strange to say, but some moments that I'm not sure would have happened if we weren't all forced to be locked down here at the house together. Forced is the wrong word. I mean, we're supposed to be here for our safety and the safety of everyone else. But yeah, there have been some nice moments in all of this. But so again, I mean, I think I want to just circle back to kind of how we started the conversation, which is talking about missing out on these really important events, and your best sort of advice and strategies for kids and for parents to deal with that disappointment. What would you say to folks?
Yeah. I would say, there's three basic points. Number one, talk to them about it. I know that they are grieving, right? And acknowledge that and let them grieve for that and go through the stages. They might be angry, they might be crying, they might be, sad, and that's all okay. And and then when there's an opportunity, talk to them about, what things they do have, right? To be grateful for that, the things that they have that others may not have. And that's also health, right? That nobody's sick in the family, and hopefully no one is sick in the family, but point those things out. And lastly, come up with a solution that they will buy into. And that might be a conversation too. It may not happen the first time. So, present the idea, seed the idea, and have conversations around it, whether that's a ceremony like, my friend's family did, or whether, that's something that happens later on in the summer where a lot more people can be invited with good hand hygiene, et cetera, et cetera. Those are potential solutions. So I think those are the three things I would suggest: that lead to acceptance with conversations. But at the end of the day, Alex, is what you said. This is an opportunity. This is a silver lining. We can use this to help them understand that life is not all the same all the time, and there will be little roadblocks, and we just navigate around them, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Your kids can grow from this adversity. It's really good advice. It's a great conversation and an important one. And so hopefully parents and kids are going to be having these these conversations soon to help them navigate all these really strong emotions they're having. We will leave it there unless there's anything else that you wanted to get into, everyone.
Yeah, I just wanted to, one other thing I would add,
Yeah.
Alex, in all of this, I think the oxygen mask, I could talk about the oxygen mask, that, parents need to take care of themselves too, to be the best parents they can be. And I would just say it's stressful for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, but I would just say parents, take care of yourselves as well. And that means sleep, rest, have that. It's not social distancing, it's actually physical distancing.
Right, sure.
So have that social time virtually, use the technology. So
absolutely. Yeah, the oxygen mask.
Yeah.
Put yours on for what do the flight attendants say? I'm trying to remember. They put yours on first and then your children. They always
I mean, you do have to, otherwise you're not going to be there for your, you're not going to be able to do as much as you can as a parent. So take care of yourself.
Great advice. All right, we will leave the conversation there. It's really a pleasure to talk with you. Looking forward to doing it again sometime soon. Dr. Hansa Bhargava, a pediatrician and a senior medical director at WebMD. Thanks so much for coming on. And I'll let the audience know that if you would like more information on the topics we discussed today, you can find it at our website. It's coronavirusnow.com. Dr. Bhargava, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.